All right, so after the die roll, we are here in round 1 of the Trading Post's first local championship. We have Matt on Order Pumat and Mike on Earth Godzilla Titan of Terror. Mike is a local from Michigan, and Matt is on our team, and I believe he has lost the roll. There we go.
Yeah, we've got Titan of Terror going first here, for sure, which obviously is where Titan of Terror wants to be. For this event, City Rampage was not errata, so going turn 2 is definitely a big potential play here for Titan of Terror in every single game that they play.
Yeah, you definitely have the avenue open to potentially, before anyone gets set up, just steal the game from your opponent with a City Rampage string. But it looks like we are doing a full mulligan on Mike's side, then like his first hand. Matt put away a few attacks there. Naturally, you want to have at least one to be able to use Pumat's ability on your opponent's first attacking turn, but not too many that you clog and don't get to build wide, because sometimes you need more than just the one pristine swordplay to kill your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Pristine swordplay, obviously a ton of damage when we build in Massive Mutant Machine, but another secret tech of Massive Mutant Machine that sometimes I think people don't think of is actually the Deflect 3, which I've seen save people in these crazy Titan of Terror turns. So
absolutely, yeah, and especially considering there's stuff in the format that deals with specifically damage reduction abilities, just holding that and having someone not think about it or not worry about it means they maybe spend their Guardian Angel of Chinatown on something else, and you can sneak in a live here.
Yeah, or hopefully, they don't build a turn 1.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
all what we're going for.
Yeah, but ooh, rough start from Mike here. We only have a 2 build. Looks like our first mulligan was a bad build into a bad build. That's rough, but
yeah, I think I saw that we had the 5 difficulty that gives +2 to the check stuck in our hand. So
yeah, normally you want to be leveraging that if you're going second on Titan of Terror as a free foundation to use with your form on the first turn. But speaking of free things, Titan of Terror doesn't matter too much if you build a little wonky on the first turn, because you'll always be able to put at least one attack on the table for free. And exactly. Matt's developing his stage pretty well here. We've got 2 of those gorgeous promo horrifying realizations, some inspiring songs, and a dawning horror. So we are in a pretty good spot here on Matt's side of the table.
Yeah, honestly, I've seen the inspiring songs matter a lot as well in these early turns, just because we can't really play through that, right? We do have to use them well. Obviously, if we use it trying to make their last attack unplayable, yet the Titan of Terror hasn't formed, that's not going to do anything. But if we can lace it so that they have to use a form earlier than they want to, that can be pretty pivotal in just living that one turn that you need.
Exactly.
It looks like we're building here.
Yeah, I think that Mike definitely didn't look like, from what we were able to see with our top-down view, that he had too much gas in the tank. So just taking this as a turn to develop here, using that Titan of Terror response when we play our 5-diff foundation, those very cool spin-down trackers that Mike himself actually helped us make for this event, leading out our first attacking string with a Bloodsucking Universe. We see that Matt has the copy of Mutant Machine in hand, getting rid of another Bloodsucking Universe, drawing 2 with Pumat here. This is great to use the tension, but it was peeled away because Mike also recognized that tension turns on Dawning Horror, and we want to make Matt work a little bit harder for that. Oh, I believe maybe he took away Throw then, actually, so he wants to try and full block this one.
Yeah, which keeping them off the momentum for Roman Cancel Purple could matter. Mm-hmm. We could be seeing that or not being worried about the horror because we have Moment of Normalcy. So even if our opponent picks up Massive Mutant Machine and builds it in, maybe we don't have to care about that this turn.
Yeah, that is fair. I don't recall if we had checked one or not, but generally against Pumat, trying to stop them from getting one of them into play or sticking multiples of them is pretty important, just because you only have one reset, but they don't have to press Mutant Machine on every attack. And especially considering this one no longer is a throw, you can prevent that extra momentum, like you said, for the Roman Cancel effect on offense. And because we developed an extra turn, it looks like we have pretty potent string that we could crack back with here on Titan of Terror if we get that far.
Yeah. And we did also have the Massive Mutant Machine in our hands, so it looks like we were very not worried about using that this turn.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try and bait out the Moment of Normalcy, and it comes down immediately. And it does look like we're blocking here.
Yep, that makes perfect sense to me. And especially considering it's no longer a throw, 3 high, pretty easy to block here. checks a 3. Even through that, we could still keep up our Shobijins if we want it.
Yeah, which I kind of bet that we were going to use it. And I believe we use both inspiring songs on ourself. So ideally, Matt is actually just going even here, which is a very good heads up play. I'm not sure if I would have held that as Mike at that point, but also maybe we want to hope they check a 3 here, right?
Yeah, hoping they check a 3 here, not necessarily too bad. One of Pumat's exploitable things is because you have to jettison some of your own foundations to develop those assets, you wind up with smaller staging areas in the early to mid game than normally you'd be comfortable with through Breaker. But we also, on Mike's side, get to print a power token here, which makes our offense even more potent. And like you were talking about, denying the, checking a 3 there, pretty bad for us in terms of our defense on Matt's side of the board. But you were saying checking and keeping the Bloodsucking Universe from going to momentum here cuts Matt off of the access to the Roman cancel response effect. So Matt, not a ton of defensive resources going into this turn. He has potentially the ability to pick up an extra mutant machine if he checked one for a deflect 3, putting him at functionally 31 life, going into a fully set up Titan of Terror turn with 2 power tokens. It's not looking the best, but we do see that he bled that Breaker block, so it's going to be close. Going up to our 3rd power token here with a City Rampage from hand, Mike looks to be pretty primed to do a bunch of damage on this turn if he has the orange, and we see he does.
Yeah, he has a lot of orange here, and that City Rampage is going to mitigate the Breaker 2 block that we happen to know Matt is holding here, which was kind of, if in Matt's position, I'm kind of hoping on that, and then I see City Rampage, I'm like, oh, well, that kind of sucks, I guess. Hopefully I get to block with it twice with the Mecha Godzilla versus Godzilla.
Yeah, and very heads-up play here on Mike's side to lead with the Crushing Impact to make sure that if we are holding that Breaker block, we're not going to get to use it immediately here, so we can maybe string together a bunch of damage and a bunch of responses on the side of Titan of Terror, and maybe invest those power tokens a bit early to get some extra damage in on one of our faster attacks.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm kind of looking at this. I'm just terrified for Matt. I think I'm used to playing 7-handers into this Titan of Terror meta, and I'm just dead here. There's literally no way I'm not doing anything with this. So I'm really interested to see how Matt lives this one, if he does. Not having the Bloodsucking Universe go to momentum, I think, was the biggest deal for us entirely. Yeah,
very heads up on Mike's side to know to be setting up for this turn, and this offense looks really potent so far, and we do see Matt cashing in early on that momentum that he knows isn't really going to do much else for him to pick up I believe it would be a mutant machine here if he has it, just for that option of deflect 3. Doesn't look like he has a mutant machine, but he might just be picking up a low block here. He's actually going for the Iden box.
That might be Iden box just to build it in, because it's going to make it where we can block this Crushing Impact, and hopefully be able to maybe block twice, which would be really good for this turn, and be about the only thing that could make it where we could live here, I think.
Yeah, very heads up play on his side here to be able to reset that back, and getting access to our Breaker block, like you were saying, making our Titan of Terror opponent play on real progressive for at least one of their checks this turn before they stop making those. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Looks like we are cashing in on our Roar to put this back to be a little bit more uncomfortable to block. Man, honestly, it's looking like a pretty hard block to pass here with, I believe, the +2 block mod on the Breaker block. So you'd have to check an actual 5 and tap all the way out here.
Yeah, which kind of tells our opponent the rest of our turn, which is always the scariest thing as the defensive player, because when your opponent knows they're just counting damage, it takes a lot of mental load off of their plate.
Oh, it's a 1 block. Okay, so we do get to keep up one thing here, which means that we do get to respond with Pumat here on the block as well, making it so that if we do check a 3 here on our next check that is on real progressive, because we are mitigating the +2 from Rampage, our turn doesn't get to have a free attack from discard pile in it if we want to pass that attack.
Yeah, we'd be on a 7 and then check a 5, 6, 7, yeah. Even if we do check well, actually, right?
If we do check well here, I believe
Oh,
get
I
to keep
didn't count
our.
the. No, I counted the City Rampage because it's canceled out by the breaker.
Yeah, so if we check
Yeah.
if we're playing a 5 diff here on a 7 with neutral check, if we check a 5, oh, you're right, actually.
Yeah, this kind of stops the turn entirely, which I don't think I saw coming, to be honest. I wasn't counting it out, but
Yeah, I definitely didn't
looks
account
like-
for the Iden box in the discard pile. I was assuming that this Crushing Impact was just going to walk. So
Yeah.
I guess if we're going to do anything here, it might just be a Godzilla form because we know that we can't pass another check profitably, or maybe just building a foundation then using a Zilla form.
yeah, maybe we might be looking for a Zilla form to ready the +2 to our check specifically, so that we can have +2 to our check back, and so our City Rampage is no longer blank.
Yeah. Very well played on Matt's side of things here. Looks like we are just continuing to brute force the attacks through here on Mike's side, just getting a little bit of damage in. We do only see one mutant machine on Pumat's side, and 28 is not nothing in terms of health, so might require a little bit more finesse. We did cash in on our momentum this turn to live, so there's no on-demand mutant machine. We'll still have to find another one to potentially be able to kill our Titan of Terror opponent on the crackback, but we made contact there with both of those, one of them being for a half, so we can cash in on some of our EX or powerful later if we get that far. I'm honestly not super comfortable here if I'm the Titan of Terror with just one reset in stage, and I'm still playing through a Breaker 2 block right now specifically. It's pretty not likely that we're going to pass. Looks like we have a 3 diff foundation in our hand, that'll be on a 6 with -2 to the check because it's not getting affected by City Rampage. This might just be a pass.
Yeah, and that does look like what it is. We are just gonna pass here. I have to believe that we did not want to burn our +2 to our check, hoping that we can at least block 1 here, making it where we might have to find, if we do have to find that extra massive mutant machine, because I think if we don't keep up the +2 to our check, then attack into pristine swordplay probably just kills us for the most part.
And it looks like we did draw some extra attacks here on Matt's side. We have another breaker block if we do decide to play a little bit longer of a game here. And it's honestly, from playing against Pumat as often as I have, we're 1 mutant machine draw off of Pumat effect away from this turn just being the game.
Yeah, and I've also seen the air version, but what I really love about this order version is actually the fact that we get to play Iden box, because I think that's really what saved us. Thinking about the air version that we've seen Wub play in New York City, we got to see it firsthand, obviously. It was definitely tough to live some of those turns where there was just too big of stats, but Iden box just makes it where we get to.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing a lot more people representing Pumat as a threat in this format, just as someone who's able to pretty consistently represent a kill on the crackback against these very consistent Titan of Terror lists, and having the option on the order symbol of against the mirror, even being able to use Iden box as a reset against a mutant machine, making them have to account for a little bit more damage, making them have to worry a little bit more about deflect plus Iden box, making your health total not what it seems on paper.
Yeah.
Pretty strong.
Yeah, thinking about this turn, we did end up ripping into what I believe is a Walk the Dog, the fancy version specifically, very pretty version, and 2 pristine sword plays, which I think could be just enough stats to get there. But it's going to be hard through this moment of normalcy. This +2 to our check for, almost free. +1 if you include the fact that it gets committed itself. Although, actually, I didn't even think about that. Pumat just commits him down.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize that he only had 2 foundations there. I was assuming that we were going to be able to keep the reset and have that as our only real lifeline, but we don't even have that anymore.
And we just have this jury in our hands, so we're just going to be able to reset exactly one of these. But with the fact that we have, we're going to use it on this pristine sword play here. That's going to be +5 damage. We're going to use it on the next pristine sword play, and then we still have that Walk the Dog that we can play if we just need 6 damage to come through.
Yeah. Cashing in our jury early here. We have this back down to 4. We don't even have the foundation to pay for the other effect of jury, so we can't even tax Pumat's stage like that. And you see...
And we go 2 damage. Surely we have counted this out better than I have to know that that 2 damage matters.
Yeah. It seems like they're talking about, I think maybe Mike is realizing right now that, he can't use the response on jury because he doesn't have the cost to pay. But yeah, the 2 damage might wind up mattering here. And honestly, using every part of the Buffalo, Puma, we had the item box on defense. If we don't need it anymore, that's just free stats.
Exactly. Especially because we know the second one that's going to come down is obviously going to be this pristine sword play here. That is going to do a massive amount of damage. +7, +5, so 9, 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing 16 here. We just have to find 3 more damage, I believe, because...
It's 6 more damage, which is
Or 6 more
exactly the
damage,
walk
rather.
the dog that is in our hand. We have counted this turn out from the beginning. We knew exactly what we had to do, and we executed that play to perfection.
Incredibly
which I
well
love
played.
to see.
Yeah. I feel like we're talking about it in the future. We just kind of have to watch it happen here because this is an exactsies line for lethal bar deflect, which I believe because Mike bled his hand, we see that he doesn't have. This might just be it here. Yeah, that was really well leveraged on the item box here.
Yeah, using the advantage we have here of the fact that we are doing this after the event has already happened. Very exciting event, by the way. It was tons of fun. If you can make it out to your LCs, make sure to do that because they're always a blast. But using the advantage, we do happen to also know that Matt's run here is going to be incredible for the entire day.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if he ever ends up on stream again, but if he does, make sure to, on video again. If he does, make sure to check those videos out because we're already seeing how he was able to make such a run.
Yeah. And we even have a little bit of extra padding here with a foundation leaving our staging area. Team Hero gets to put a little bit of extra damage on it, and we're just making sure that there's no possible way that we can have our opponent pass their block check. We're getting the inspiring song for the next one just because that one's only base 6 speed, and I don't think there's a world where it could have been something that was passed, but Matt dotting his I's, crossing his T's, just making sure that we have everything locked up here. And checking well, just the icing on the cake. We didn't even need to worry about it. Getting the extra draw, just making sure that we do everything we can. Yeah, that's the first game down. Yeah, so moving on to sideboarding here, we see in Matt's sideboard just a bevy of different attacks that could come in here. We have 4, I believe... Mike, his best sideboard option is probably this Stroke the Big Tree because if I recall correctly, all of Pumat's block tricks that are breaker are mid. So
yeah, Stroke the Big Tree is definitely one of the best tools that Titan of Terror can use, especially if you can use it to your advantage in these longer games if that's end up what you have to do. In my rounds, I happened to play into Will Anderson, who used it very well to make Protector of Life an unplayable card.
Yes, yeah.
Never mind being able to use the tension to make it mid, so you're guaranteed taking damage, which obviously, as Puma, is going to be a little bit safer to do. We have 28 life, but it's still, if we get enough power tokens, we can just make a guaranteed throw, essentially.
Yeah.
That can't be blocked by any of the block tricks that make it,
100%. Yeah, and it pulls
damage.
double duty here. If we're not too worried about our opponent's breaker block and we want to get them to spend it maybe or put them on better habit, the tension ability on Stroke the Big Tree means that we get to live through at least one of those giant pristine sword plays with our Roman cancel response.
Exactly. Which certainly will matter, right? If we had a Roman cancel, I'm not sure that we actually get to do that because of the fact that we get to wait until we see how big the attack is. We definitely wouldn't have gotten punked by the second pristine sword play.
Correct. Yeah, that really gives the very interesting game of chicken that you have to play between the Pumat player and the Godzilla. We also have one of the champ cards. We have the Cardboard Crusaders in the sideboard for Mike, which is pretty good at sealing a pristine sword play if it's the first one that they play, or if it is any other attack that they lead with, making their string potentially a little bit awkward in terms of what they want to lead or not lead, and just getting a little bit of extra damage against Puma there or speed so that they can't block with those block tricks. Cashing that in for the once per turn is not bad either.
Yeah, I think if we do bring in the Cardboard Crusaders, we're just going to be getting rid of Blood-Sucking Universe here because that takes care of the tension and the throw, which, if you get rid of tension and throw off that attack, it's just kind of a 3 high 5. It doesn't really have anything else that it gets to do.
And honestly, that's a really strong 2-for-1. We love that.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at my sideboard, we have all actions. Oops, all actions. Oops, all blue.
Matt's sideboard is hilarious to look at. Yeah, we have a handful of things here that are kind of symptoms of the fact that this is pre-errata. We have a lot of Koenma's tasks, which work well against other things in the format as well, like you were mentioning Protector of Life, lots of Scanlan's hands running around to commit or turn off specific problematic defensive resources or characters. But
or just City Rampage.
Yeah. But yeah, Matt's got a lot of blue to look at, and we'll see them offering cuts for game 2 here. And it looks like we are starting as the Titan of Terror again. This time, hopefully, our hands are a little bit better and we get a little bit more than a 2 build. But
yeah, while they're building here, I find it funny because Matt's obviously a better deck builder than me because all those actions would have just been in my deck. Clunking up by 10 more cards, but he just was like, nope, I'll just get them if I need them, which is awesome. I do think we're probably gonna bring in, if I had to guess, Fortitude of the Armored Titan and Filled with Doubt are our big 2 ones because I think Filled with Doubt is probably your best answer to Titan of Terror, or at least that's been my soapbox opinion that I've been on for the last week or 2.
In general, on demand, your best card from your discard pile, one of the best answers to that is just turning that card's text off, right? If we went out of our way to use our really powerful once per turn ability to just play it from the discard pile, I will use my really powerful ability to not have it have text.
Exactly.
But we will see how that translates here. We checked a really good one on Titan of Terror's side here, and having access to a Queen of the Monsters this early, and having an actual 3, maybe 4 build depending on our checks, pretty strong here. Lets us chain out a lot of attacks in a row, even if they're on rolling 5s. Checks a 3 there, unfortunately, on our 4th foundation, but puts another unique option in our discard pile, really widening out Godzilla's toolbox to be able to play whatever the situation calls for.
Yeah, it does look like we did end up building natural cover, which is going to make it where we just don't have, we have essentially an extra moment of normalcy that also doesn't have unique.
Correct.
Granted, it's 1 use, but
we do get the
hopefully that saves
resource.
us.
Yeah, we do get the resource for it pretty cleanly and pretty efficiently here. Looks like we've passed all of those here on Matt's side, and you'll see a little bit more of what we were talking about earlier with Pumat being not that wide of a builder in the early game because he does have to keep on turn 2. Generally speaking, if you want to hold up one of your best block tricks, you have to keep an attack in your hand. You play so many assets that sometimes you just don't draw that many foundations.
Yeah. Luckily, we are hiding a secret Cohen Mistas that came in from our sideboard. So if our opponent does try to punk us on turn 2, it looks like we might have the upper hand.
Yeah, and it looks like we're thinking about it here on Mike's side. Yeah, and we're going to lead it. We've got the City Rampage here, checking a 3. That's what you love to see if you're the Pumat. And
yeah,
unfortunately, we're going to do all of our responses, dot our I's, cross our T's, and get our action canceled.
And a 3 check off the top of our deck. Looks like we're just playing perfect by accident, even with the randomness of the checks, and still getting a 3 check off our deck.
Yeah, very much so here. So we're gonna pivot gears here. We're gonna switch to just building here as Mike, and then using our form on something else later because we cannot cheat that prog. And like we said, leveraging the Queen of the Monsters here, we might be able to eke out an attack turn out of this yet, Justin, because we did just build down another copy of History's Greatest Monster, which even if we check bad, nets us a foundation back.
Yeah, we can absolutely play at least one more unless this gets blocked by something that either commits us or breaker 2s, which unfortunately every attack that Puma can block with does commit us, but hopefully they don't have it, or we get this fast enough that it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
I think even if we get it fast enough, if we make them burn the reset down to 3 speed there, that would have been worth it. But it looks like instead we're just...
Interesting decision here. We're opting to hold up a substitute member and not use our character response when we block here. Interesting. We might be in a little bit of trouble here as a result of that.
I actually think I can defend this one a little bit. I don't hate it here, only because our opponent could check 3s, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But in addition to that, we're just choosing to fail it.
Yeah, wow.
I was gonna go on about we have a City Rampage that gumps up the build of our turn, so maybe we're hoping our opponent has a very gunky hand that is just mostly attacks. They can't really build out and set up for the next turn here.
Yeah, generally,
it looks like it just didn't matter.
Yeah, generally you can have that read if they are leading a Rampage from a hand. Oftentimes, pre-errata in this format, if you lead a Rampage from the discard pile, the read is that your hand is all orange, very angry. But playing one from hand, it's not really a tell one way or the other necessarily. because you're likely going to just play it anyways.
Yeah.
But we have Monster versus Machine here as our lead in, kind of just an excuse to use Pumat's response here, an excuse to enter the enhanced step. And it really lets Mike know that we are content with not holding a breaker mid block in our hand for his turn, which is really scary on the Titan of Terror side of things, because that means that we have better defensive resources to be playing with on our opponent's next turn. And we didn't develop our foundations at all as Mike. So this is a little unfortunate here, but
yeah, I do think that's the best part about having these decks that are able to do just enough defense, is we can kind of trick our Titan of Terror opponents into trying to play offense on turn 2, and then when they inevitably fail, they can't really build out, right?
Yeah.
We did get History Greatest down, which is obviously going to be very good. It's basically 2 extra foundations, but it's still not a lot.
Very heads up play here by Mike, though, to rebuy those 2 foundations. We functionally paid nothing for this block.
Yeah.
And in fact, they paid us. But Pumat here just developing 2 more foundations, not getting any momentum. Not getting any extra assets, but we have the momentum to fetch an asset if we have one in our discard pile because we have that Dawning Horror.
Yeah, another thing that I really like about this order version over the air version is, I believe looking here, we have 6 entire 3 difficulty attacks, meaning entering that enhanced step, something that Pumat has to do, is inherently less dangerous than it is if we had to play a 5 diff.
Exactly.
We can check a 3 and it's okay. We'll still be able to defend, even though, like you've pointed out twice or 2 or 3 times now, that it's really hard to actually build out our stages, Pumat, because we just have to run those assets.
Yeah, correct. And on top of that, playing the 3 diffs that are on order, it's really hard sometimes getting some defensive resources stuck in your hand without being able to clear them profitably, either by using them as blocks or by playing them. But Pumat can play them profitably because that just nets him 2 cards. And if he has like multiples, if he has 2 breaker blocks and he can only pass one of them and use a defensive trick like that, he can just play the other one as an attack to net 2 more cards or see a little bit deeper into his deck.
Yeah, never mind that because we first built this Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, one of my favorite order cards, one of the reasons I think to play order for any character right now, or the good symbol as well. I've used it in those as well, but we actually have 2 breaker blocks even if we only have 1.
Yeah, and leading the destructive heat ray here on the Titan of Terror turn, correctly identifying that Pumat was digging over the past 2 turns to try and find an asset that he wants to build here, turning off his ability to on-demand fetch one from the discard pile. And it looks like that wasn't really on Matt's mind either, because he was checking through his discard pile to see if he even had one, but...
I actually think we might be checking for Inventor's Creation, because if we do happen to have a Breaker 2 block in our discard pile, we have a secret other Breaker 2 block that is a low as well, which is just so brutal into these Titan of Terror decks that play nothing but lows.
Absolutely. And on top of that, like you were talking about with Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, one of the strongest cards in this set, just being able to rebuy that breaker block. You have a mid and a low breaker block at whatever time you want on demand.
Yeah, we were talking about the Stroke the Big Flame, and Inventor's Creation is a pretty darn good answer to that card, actually.
Oh yeah, for sure. Unless they have the absolute soul read and they put it high.
And once again, we're just seeing why Matt has done better at this event than I have, because I didn't even think about the fact that we could discard a breaker block to the response of Pumat. We're still on, we've played an attack card. We can then respond with Inventor's Creation to get that breaker too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just love seeing this.
Absolutely insane sequencing. Yeah, very good sequencing here by Matt. We played at the Winkers Island, Kansas City LC earlier this season, and we made it to finals. I wound up taking it there, but Matt here really showing why he deserved to be in both of the finals that we wind up seeing him in.
Yeah. Yeah, being on the team, how much do you know about how much Matt has, or how much work Matt has put into this deck?
I personally have not played as much with Matt as I would have liked to. Matt usually tests with Shri a lot because Shri says Matt is one of his most valuable team members because at any point in time, Shri can go, Matt, I would like to play test, and it can be any hour of the day, and Matt's there and ready to play for it, and it's paying off in spades. Both Shri and Matt did very well in this event, and it's due to their absolute like grind mentality in terms of just playing a bunch of games, jamming a bunch of matchup practice, playing infinite games of this format, talking about their deck lists, making iterations on it, seeing what works and what doesn't. And like you were saying there, leading with that 3 diff, making sure that even if we check a 3, we can kind of control our fate on this turn, do whatever it is we need to be doing. And with that team hero in play, we might see here that this Bug Bite Blitz stacks something that we want to draw, and then building in a form draw with Team Hero 15. Just the versatility of the assets that Pumont gets to leverage, the foundations that he gets to play, whether attuned or main symbol, just a lot of utility here.
Yeah, never mind that we actually have 2 Coinmas tasks here. So if we build in a Horrifying Realization, we can actually discard one of those Coinmas tasks and be able to form it to possibly go find our 4th one, just to keep up in case our opponent dares play a City Rampage.
Yeah, absolutely. Never mind that it also,
for us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, never mind that it also rips cards plural out of Mike's deck here if he chooses to go for that line. But we might be seeing him looking for something else here. Yeah, grabbing the Inventor's Creation, putting that on top. We might just be angling for something else. We do have to play through natural cover, so trying to figure out exactly what that's going to look like on this turn, what we get to take from our Godzilla Titan of Terror opponent, and what we have to give up in its place. This is going to wind up at +6/+6 with a 1 high native on its speed. It's not the most unblockable thing necessarily, so this one might actually just get blocked, but
we could be baiting out what resources Mike has here, specifically in the fact that we can reset to 1. So we might just want to see it get reset to 1 so that we can hopefully pressure on a different turn.
Yeah, alternatively, even if we check well, depending on what the block mod of our card that we are blocking with is, we might have to give up that natural cover to pass the block. Let's see, that was a 2 plus a 7, so we checked a 5. We are owed 4, 3, and 4. Good call by Mike there, leaving up natural cover. Titan of Terror, I believe we're checking to see if we get to respond to print the power token when we play a card as a block if we have to commit him, but we do not because he is not ready when that card is played, so to speak. But we do get both of those History's Greatest monsters re-readied. And without an active Massive Mutant Machine, we might be able to represent another block on this turn as Titan of Terror.
Yeah. Never mind that we still do have that one safeguard of resetting down to 1. So it's definitely going to be hard to kill at 26 life here, but we could get enough damage that we don't feel too bad about it and hopefully still be able to block.
Yeah. Matt here, it looks like considering potentially being able to play that Bloodsucking Universe because... Oh, I guess he didn't want to risk it. And yeah, this is another one of those times we're seeing that Puma doesn't build that wide necessarily. He's got a full grip of orange and blue at this point, but sometimes it's orange and green. So we can't develop any further than this. Mike, honestly, getting away pretty scot-free here. We didn't have to cash in any of those power tokens. We got to keep our natural cover. Took no damage on that turn.
And drawing a deadly grip of attacks here. Starting with the City Rampage, though.
Checking a 5 on it this time, so the Koenma's task is not going to be as bad necessarily. Still sucks to have 1 floating prog, but if we have a Queen of the Monsters in our discard pile, which I believe we know we do from earlier, we could get rid of that prog unless we want the +1/+1 static throughout our turn. And starting with a Destructive Heat Ray here is going to be able to turn off one of those defensive resources. That means no more double breaker block with Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and no more substitute member if he really wants.
Yeah, I honestly think I'd probably swing for the substitute member here, just because getting reset to 3 is one of the things that makes these attacks so easily blockable, and we are going to have to make these attacks pretty fast to be able to actually get some damage through here.
Yeah, because we do still have that Aaron sidestep, and we do have 6 foundations in our stage, so it's not impossible to block more than one thing here, but if we get rid of the speed reset and we make them only have Aaron's sidestep here, it might be impossible to block 2 things and be able to rebuy our best block with Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. That one might just be a normal foundation on this turn.
Exactly. Never mind the fact that substitute member also just kind of sleeps Shin Hashogeki, making it that 6 mid that makes it so dangerous when you're fully committed out, down to a 3 mid, which can be blocked by, even if you've already blocked this turn, could still be blocked by a 2 mid block as long as your character's still up.
Yeah.
You have to check well, but you know.
Yeah, but
that's
if you,
the game.
I was going to say, you do have to check well. That is the game. But if you weren't going to check well anyways, you were probably dead. But we are seeing a lot of thinking here on the side of Mike, because he does have pretty much a full grip of attacks here and a pretty full discard pile at this point. So it seems like the tools are all there. We're only down one History's Greatest Monster response, so we still have functionally 8 foundations available to us on this turn. We are playing on some pretty high progressive here, though, and unfortunately we get to pull the Pumot trick again and the Inventor's Creation trick again of breaker blocking this one, stuffing the string, and still have our Godzilla Titan of Terraform. We have 7 of those power tokens, so if we can find an attack that's fast enough, we can make this pretty dang close to lethal, maybe even getting there all the way. See him eyeing that Shin Hashigeki as a finisher, potentially being the difference maker, but with our full stage here, it's not the worst thing in the world to be playing on functionally 4 progressive difficulty, because even if we check a 3, we get to keep our character up for the form, and we get to respond with History's Greatest Monster. And it looks like Mike sees that too. He is going for it. This is on a 7, checking a 3, committing 4 down, but actually only 3 because of that History's Greatest Monster. And
yeah, never mind these.
Capture the targets. Yeah.
Capture the target. I was scared to get the name wrong there.
You're
but and once we get one more attack down, which all we have to do is play a form, we get another foundation. And at that point, our last attack would be on a 9 with 5 ready.
Yeah.
Which is plenty of foundations to at least get it to hopefully pass.
Yeah. And our only,
as long as we leave our character up.
Our only real risk here is that we either need to, if we're not too worried about checking a 3 on exactly our next attack here, we either need to form immediately as our next one after Shin Hashigeki commits down, if Shin Hashigeki is not enough to kill them, because I believe that we are shy by a little bit of damage on this one, because this is going to wind up at, I believe if you cash in all the power tokens, it's 14 plus the 5 represented is 19. So Matt will still be alive at 9 if we bet the farm here on this one. And we'll still need to play 2 more attacks from 9, generally.
Yeah, and it looks like we actually opted to grab a power token, meaning we don't think we need the form here.
We are putting ourselves in a little bit of a risky spot here if we do check a less than 5 on our next attack, but this Shin Hashigeki is for sure going to connect, and the extra 2 damage might wind up being what we need to only need to play 1 more attack after this. But we'll see. The static 1/1 from City Rampage, even having its check hack negated, might wind up being what gets us where we need to go on this turn.
Yeah, thank God Koima's Test does not seal the entire card, but instead only cancels the effect that we attempted to play.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so we're conserving a little bit here. We are on Mike's side of things, maybe realizing if we check a 3, we're in a little bit of hot water here, saving some of those power tokens for the natural cover on our opponent's turn, just in case things don't work out.
Yeah, or if we just wanted to play the Crushing Impact just so it had a bit of extra speed to make sure it was not remotely blockable.
Yeah. I think with a fully tapped stage and 1 in card pool, it's pretty hard to block a base, I believe, for Crushing Impact. That's a base 4 speed low. You'd have to have pretty good block mod and check pretty well to even be able to half block or full block that. But conserving the power tokens for a natural cover and then betting the farm on the last attack that you know your opponent can't block, I think is still worthwhile. It's still a good idea. Mike here really thinking about what he wants to do. He's pot committed himself to only being able to play an attack from his hand because Godzilla is sideways. But
I do think we just have to go for it here. I think
yeah,
we just have to.
We've signed ourselves up for the top of our deck being what decides it. We check a 5 here on our 8. We are able to make the check.
And we're going to get to re-ready to capture the targets, clear 1 progressive, get a momentum, which should make it where the next one's also on an 8. So if we just check 2 5s, we could even play those 2 attacks if we end up needing to.
Yeah. I believe with the current amount of damage that we have represented with those power tokens, I think that we might actually have to play 1 more attack here because this is coming in as a base 6 with 4 power tokens, that's +8, that's 14. And you'll notice Pumat at 15 health. We're cutting it pretty close here, but like you were saying, oh no, we shoved the momentum before we used the capture the targets. We're not going to get to re-ready those.
It just seems like maybe that wasn't part of the plan here.
It might not have been part of the plan here. We might have miscalculated slightly. Yeah, it looks like we're not going to be able to get there on this turn. And what looked to be representing in fearsome offense for Titan of Terror might have been stunted a little bit by that second cancel for the City Rampage and that breaker block on the Inventor's Creation.
Yeah, I am glad we didn't go for it because I feel like some Titan of Terror players, would have gone for the second City Rampage from our discard pile as our form for the turn. But as we saw, Matt actually had another Coinmas, so that actually would have been
wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, and unfortunately, even though we did try to account for having a natural cover up as a defensive option, because we didn't re-ready those capture the targets, and because we didn't wind up with any extra foundations ready at the end of our turn, if Pumat wants to here, he can just get rid of that reset immediately with his response on the first attack being played to tap down the last card that Mike has on his side of the board. And yeah, that's what we see him doing. So he's calling his shot. He's pointing at the stands. He says, this is the turn.
Yeah, which if we have a pristine sword player in our hand, which I can't tell yet, it is just game for turn, right? Or if we have another Massive Mutant Machine here.
Yep. Looks like we have MMM here. And yeah, I can see at least 2 more attacks in his hand. So I think even pristine swordplay notwithstanding, Mike's pretty shields down here. It's kind of Pumat's world to do what he needs to.
Yeah, we have 11 damage here. I know one of the other attacks is another Bloodsucking Universe, which is at least 3 damage, even if it's blocked randomly, if we don't put any stats on it. And then our last one there is going to be Covert Assault, another card here that I haven't seen other Pumat players playing, but is pretty fantastic. It's going to be, with the Massive Mutant Machine, 8 damage.
Yeah, and especially that response on Covert Assault, costing your opponent foundations to stop you from re-readying. If you tap your opponent's foundations down, they can't pay that cost more likely than not. So you do just get to rebuy the low amount of foundations that you normally have. And Pumat doesn't necessarily matter when you're playing a 3-diff attack that re-readies 2 of them. So
exactly,
really interesting tech there. Oh, I believe that's after you block with it. Never mind, I'm new.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's just going to be really good because it also has the breaker 1. So it is just one of those premier blocks. I think if it were me, I would have probably ran a second copy of Timely Counterattack, but I did not do as well in this event. So that would have been the wrong decision, clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's looking like you were correct here. We're not going to actually be able to close it out here because we didn't have that pristine sword plate. We didn't have one more of those attacks that we could really pay off with here. And now we froze the natural cover, so we don't have to worry about it again on the next turn, but we still have to get to the next turn part. We only have 1 defensive resource in our hand on the side of Pumat. We have a Roman cancel, so we're at functionally 10 health, I want to say, as a result of using the Roman cancel. And 10, not that hard for Titan of Terror to count to, especially with that hand of orange and with Pumat being as committed out as he is right now. I feel like, yeah, the form on City Rampage here probably going to make it so that our turn can't fail, and definitely going to make it so it's way harder for Pumat to be able to breaker block us to even try to have our turn fail. But with those History's Greatest Monsters, with those capture the targets this time around, we should just be able to close it out on this turn if we're the Titan of Terror. I would not feel comfortable if I was Matt at all. I would be hoping that my opponent didn't draw any orange and that my Roman cancel can answer the 1 from discard.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's almost certainly not going to be the case here, as we can see.
Yeah.
Just because we're just seeing a grip of orange. And I think it's a bit unfortunate that it's just writing on the wall.
Yeah. I think at this point, on the Pumat side of things, you're thinking about that game 3. Finally, you get to go first in this matchup. You get to develop a little bit earlier. You get to be the one to put your opponent on the back foot, because normally when Titan of Terror goes first, it's even worse because they get the first attacking turn, and anything they draw they can play, and anything they've checked they can play.
Yeah.
And on the Pumat side of things, if you get to go first, you get to leverage the don't flinch of maybe I get to build this Massive Mutant Machine early, and maybe every turn I have at least 5/5 worth of stats on whatever attack I do wind up drawing.
Yeah, exactly.
But we do still have to get there, and it looks like this Crushing Impact is going to be for a decent enough amount of damage that we might want to respond with that Roman cancel. But if we don't, we're going down to pretty low here.
I do think it's going to be a little bit dependent on, what am I saying? We're at 6 health. I don't think it's going to be dependent at all on us using our power tokens in like a very clever way. I think we just actually can make everything lethal.
Yeah.
So in 2 attacks, it might just be done.
Yeah, I think there is a world where we were supposed to put a little bit more power tokens on this just to put him down to a spot where he would be at less than 3 or at 3, so the Roman cancel wouldn't matter, but I don't think it matters either way here. We've walked, our city rampage has finally resolved, the Coenmas have run out, the task is not complete, and we have all the time in the world, all the attacks in the world to just hit our opponent until game 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is what it's looking like. So I think we kind of can start looking towards, as unfortunate as it is for Matt, we can start looking towards game 3 here. And I think it's gonna, in my opinion at least, it's gonna come down to what you said. We just get that extra first attacking turn, right?
Yeah, we get to develop a little bit further as Pumat. Like we were saying, we don't really get to build super duper wide, but getting an extra build turn before that really mitigates that. And yeah, we are gonna see here, yeah, Matt writing on the walls, picking them all up, going into game 3 here.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the first attacking turn, we're not on the air symbol, so we don't get Queen of Monsters into Pristine Swordplay, which is exactly 28 damage with a Massive Mutant Machine. But we are just 1 damage off, which means it could be something like Pristine Swordplay with a Walk the Dog, or with just one of those extra 3 diffs on our second turn to get to that 28 damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that while there are some small adjustments you can make going second as Titan of Terror, obviously most characters in this game, I'll say all characters in this game would prefer to go first. Titan of Terror, obviously pre-errata getting to leverage. If you've checked the city rampage, you can just form it for fun at the end of your attack string just to get an extra power token. Or if you play any of those 5 difficulty foundations, getting an extra free build at the end of a string, pretty strong in that regard as well. But I'm never comfortable going second into Pumat. I think it's always very, very scary. And I think by virtue of getting the first one, Matt's buying himself a pretty good spot for game 3 here.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much we have to see the amount of answers that make it where we don't just explode. And if we don't see those, well, there's only one other option, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think that some of the adjustments we'll see here from Matt's side are trying to have less of those cloggy cards stuck in our hands. I know it wound up working out for him for at least 2 of those turns, buying him a little bit of time, but we did have 2 Coenmas clogged in our hands over the course of 2 turns here, and Pumat can't really afford to either not be pressuring or not be developing for that long. But it looks like we're really happy with our first hand. It's looking like a 3 to possibly 4 build here with a checked Mutant Machine and 1 in hand.
And a checked Iden box. I think that's about as happy as I can be about my checks as a player.
And passing the 4th one that's not guaranteed. We're really, really happy here. Pumat's in a very good spot immediately off rip here. And Mike had to put 4 back. We didn't see exactly how many extra foundations he drew here, but we're looking at likely a guaranteed 3 build, I want to say. Yeah, it looks like at least a guaranteed 3 build. The other good part about Godzilla is reviewing an attack feels a lot less bad when you can always play it later. So even if you see one of your toolbox one-ofs, if you choose to review it now, you'll have access to it later, bar an opponent's immense showdown or one of the Jet Jaguar cards that buries things. But unfortunately, we didn't draw any more foundations, but we did draw that referee jury, so that's going to be a really big help in stopping us from getting potentially turn 2'd here, even through Pumat's pretty strong setup so far. But getting some extra options in our discard pile. Checking the Queen of the Monsters is really, really big there because that is ways to cheat progressive without walking into an action cancel as Titan of Terror. And when you have a hand of attacks like it looks like Mike does, that's kind of what we're going to be looking for on the next string here. But we do have to make it that far. We have a referee jury and a few decent blocks in hand. Let's see what the Pumat turn looks like. It might just be a development turn to draw some cards, see where we can go, but it might be more.
Yeah, is that 2 massive mutant machines that I see.
That
if it
is-
that's definitely something that could go crazy. But it looks like we're just gonna opt to play a little bit safe here, make sure that we can make it through our next turn.
Yeah.
Possibly planning on just building in these massive mutant machines on our opponent's turn.
Yeah, that's
which is the single best thing Pumat can do.
Absolutely. That's the great part about Mutant Machine in Pumat specifically is you can show your opponent the utmost respect and hold up deflect 6 across 2 attacks in your hand, or if they're not representing enough of a threat, you can cheat that Mutant Machine into play and tell your opponent, here comes the Piper, next turn is the turn, and we still have to make it to next turn. We have a Destructive Heat Ray coming in first, getting our first power token, up to 2 more. The only thing we can't flip, unfortunately, on the first attack is that Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. So we are in jeopardy on Mike's side of things of getting double breaker blocked, but we do still have to check it. We do still have to get that far, and Pumat still has to have it in hand.
Yeah, I will say I get to see 2 of my favorite things on the Pumat side, which first off is having a face down foundation to get rid of for one of our massive mutant machines if we want to build that in. And second thing was checking our discard pile for that Inventor's Creation, hoping to see a breaker block in there. I don't think we have one, unfortunately, but we did look for it as we see this low attack get played.
Yeah, and we can dig for them with these inspiring songs. We pick our opponent, I believe, just to make sure that you either have to form next or your check is going to be really, really risky here. Building in a mutant machine, we said we have enough inspiring songs. We might not necessarily have a breaker block, but I don't think we're dying on this turn with the little amount of power tokens that you have. I might take some damage, but I'm going to be set up with 2 mutant machines coming in next turn, and you're going down if I get that far.
Yeah, it might have been really dangerous to do.
We skipped the block part. I think at least that was what happened.
Yeah,
Mike,
I think we were trying to play our next.
Mike jumped the gun a little bit there. Yeah, it looks like we are still. Yeah, we're still milling. We're still digging for another breaker. We're still trying to make it so that his check is a little bit worse. Even more awful. We didn't hit that breaker, so we're still putting him on. You must play a foundation as your next card, clogging progressive here, then making the check. Unfortunately, not checking particularly well, but still playing an attack, still being able to respond with Pumat if we so desire. We will grip that mutant machine. We are giving Mike the utmost respect. We said, hey, I know your check is -3, but how about a little more? Make sure that there's no way that he can play anything else here that will for sure kill me.
Yeah, and then we do end up getting at least a breaker 1. So that's -4 with no safety text on our check here.
Yeah, that's
which
crazy.
I don't know what we do. Which that was the play I was going to ask about, and then we had that mishap that happened there. But that is what I thought was the play to go for here.
Yeah, fortunately on Mike's side, we do have a 0 diff, so we can make it through breaker 4 functionally. Still get our build off.
Attacking other than our form here.
Yeah, we do have to stop attacking other than our form here. Mike doesn't know that there's more than 1 mutant machine coming. He turned off the form draw with his Destructive Heat Ray. Very heads up play on his side that there was only 1 form draw on the board. So he made sure to go after that. But now it's looking like it's pretty grim for Mike here on the crackback. We saw him use that Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla to rebuy his Inventor's Creation, and having access to a known attack going into Pumat's turn with a mutant machine in play, and we know about the other one in hand, representing 6/6 on his first attack between the mutant machine and the undercover infiltration. That's a lot of damage, and we don't have a lot of stage as our Titan of Terror here.
Yeah, nor did we. Unfortunately, we either didn't find those defensive foundations that would have saved us, or we just couldn't play them because they are darn expensive when you have -4 to your check.
Absolutely, yeah. And Mike bled his hand here a little bit on camera. We see he has 2 more attacks and a jury, so we're not getting any further than 4 foundations in our stage here. And we have to see if 1 jury is going to be good enough to save him from a double mutant machine turn here on the side of Pumat. No review here. We have an attack and our asset going into the turn, drawing 4 here. I saw at least a blood-sucking universe, so we're going to be on the board, and we're going to have that Roman cancel, which Guardian of Angel currently checks, but between Pumat response on block, we might be able to tap down that Guardian Angel, or if he checks poorly enough on the side of Godzilla Titan of Terror, it might not matter that can stop our Roman cancel response. We might still have a pretty potent defensive resource going into Titan of Terror's next attack turn.
Exactly. I think the single best thing about Pumat into this meta right now, and why so many players, especially good players, are picking it up, is these greedy Titan of Terror decks that are just trying to slam 5 diffs and have no foundations just kind of get punked by the commit 2.
Exactly, yeah. On top of having access to obfuscated defensive resources, because you can choose to build them from your hand with Pumat, and you can, depending on how your opponent checks, the world is your oyster. If they've checked bad enough that you don't have to tap their foundations down, you can just draw 2 on block and get some more sculpt, get some more filter draw down.
Yeah.
And
never mind obfuscated offensive resources as well, because if we see Jury come down here, our opponent doesn't know that we have another massive mutant machine. Of course, they could also be saving it for pristine swordplay. The amount of plays that we can go for, the amount of versatility and creativity we have is just kind of crazy here, I think.
Exactly, yeah. And we see just that right here. Matt choosing to pass back here. I believe we are blocking with this Jury. No, we are actually using it here.
Yeah.
And now, like you were saying, that obfuscated offensive resource, Matt has the option right now. If he wants to build in another mutant machine, he can do so. Removing a face down foundation, we've already gotten our use out of it. Let's turn it into 5/5 worth of stats, sometimes even 15/15, depending on how many turns you get out of that mutant machine.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will be 5 damage if we end up doing our undercover. It ended up just being 4. Maybe we didn't want to play an enhance and risk getting committed down there. Meaning we just have to do 24 here. Looking at Inventor's Creation, I know we checked to walk the dog. So currently that is representing 17 damage, which is not quite enough, but is a good chunk of health.
Yeah. We would have to give up our Roman cancel for that, and I don't think that that's warranted necessarily, because like you were saying, we are now in a spot where our Jury could commit a foundation for its other part of its effect, which means that if we needed to pass 2 attacks, we might not be able to here. Matt correctly identifying, we got our momentum, we have our active Roman cancel. All I have to do is make you check bad enough or commit enough of your things that Guardian Angel of Chinatown is not ready on the one that's going to kill me, and I still have that defensive resource of Roman cancel available. And Mike here, it looks like we only have 2 attacks in our hand, but we are Titan of Terror, so we have whatever we want from our discard pile.
Yeah, while Mike thinks about this, we also have the fact that we built 2 final tests. So we no longer have to have the combo in hand, which has always been the problem with Pumat. Instead, we can just kind of build our own combo using bug bites or using... is there any other means to stack other than the bug bite?
I don't
I
believe
think it's just bug bite.
so.
But that is very significant, right?
Yeah.
That puts the attack in our hand that we need, or anything else. Let's say we need another massive mutant machine to have
For
3 of
sure.
them down.
Yeah, and now finally we have enough power tokens. If we so desired, that Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla can go away. But Matt, I believe, separating his stage into card draw and not card draw sides of things. And one of those card draws is a resource that has to be just flipped. So all of those will go away on their own eventually, and most of them are not usable on this turn. So we are going after the one that says, if you want to block with that Inventor's Creation that you like to block with to make your lows into breakers, you're not getting it back, so you're going to have to draw more orange if you want to kill me on the crackback. And I like that play a lot here.
Yeah, looking at... we're obviously too deep on the discard pile to know for sure if we have that Breaker 2 block that we love removing. But hopefully we do here, and hopefully that's enough to stay our opponent a little bit from going too deep.
Matt here, considering what he wants to discard for Pumat's effect, we do choose to forego having access to deflect here by pitching our mutant machine. And we also said that we aren't going to be using Pumat here to build that in. I believe we have no other assets in our hand, so we are getting off a breaker block here. We are tapping our opponent for 2. So this is a bit risky, but we didn't take any damage. We got away with it. We're 7 power tokens on the side of Titan of Terror. That's 14 damage on anything that makes it through minimum. We're functionally at 10, but we still have that Roman cancel if Guardian Angel of Chinatown is gone.
Exactly. I do think I don't hate this idea of getting rid of Massive Mutant Machine here specifically, because we have Bug Bite and Pristine Swordplay, which are pretty decent blocks, hopefully decent enough that if we need to block, we can. And Pristine Swordplay essentially represents a second Massive Mutant Machine plus 7 damage.
Correct,
right?
yeah.
And Bug Bite represents a second Massive Mutant Machine as well by just picking it up.
Exactly. All right, we are foregoing the breaker for the time being to use Break-In's ability. And we are paying for the drive so that we can use Titan of Terror and re-ready it so we can get an extra power token. Maybe just trying to eschew the minus check here, getting ourselves to the point where we can put this one close to or at enough that the Roman cancel doesn't even matter here. But this one, not that fast, all things considered. We get to rebuy a foundation here, so we've paid basically nothing for this drive ability on break-in, but if I'm doing my math correctly, we have 1 momentum, so this is 3 up to 8, and 8 power tokens, so that is 16. That is exactly 24 here. So if it makes contact, this would be lethal, and we would be able to keep up Guardian Angel of Chinatown, but it is only 5 speed mid, and we are representing a way to block it for sure, even if we check a 3 on the card that we have in our hand. Oh, we're not betting the farm here. We're not cashing in any of our power tokens. We are using our Roman cancel. We were opting not to use Guardian Angel of Chinatown on it, letting him get away with it here.
I do think I agree both with not using Guardian because it was only 8 damage anyways. And also the fact that we burned our Roman cancel because that was a super heads up play of the fact that we can't play another attack here as Mike.
Yeah, we can't safely play another attack here, certainly, because we still have that floating breaker too, because we haven't made a check because of Titan of Terror's ability. So we did have to just stop and build here. Very interesting.
Yeah. And now we get to keep both of those attacks in our hand, and hopefully our Titan of Terror opponent doesn't see what's about to be coming.
Yeah, and we do have a natural cover in play and more than enough foundations to cover it if Pumat says that we have to tap them, but he can't cover it when monster versus machine target commits natural cover here.
Yeah.
That's very good draw there. And even good draw notwithstanding, because like you said, we have those 2 form draws on board and a bug bite in hand. If we didn't draw it, we could have found it if we needed it from our discard pile by restacking it and getting the form draw off of the final tests. And now from our side of things, it looks like the writing's on the wall here, bar another jury in hand from Mike. And even potentially with this big of a stage through another jury, this might just be it.
Yeah, I think honestly, if we do the math correct here, we should be able to play around that jury just because of the fact that we have 3 different attacks we get to play here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the absolute overwhelming pressure of Pumat having access to a mutant machine early. Every single one of his attack strings could either be the one that ends the game or just an extra 5/5. And playing around a jury is as simple as the math here. We have a power token here on the effect of monster versus machine. So that's an extra 2 damage that even through a jury, if we jury ourselves down to an attack that is livable and then power token it back up, there's nothing they can really do about that. We don't need to care about our foundation being committed if our opponent's dead.
Yeah, I do think we have to hope on the 5 checks here a little bit because I do think we're going to have to... The line that I'm kind of envisioning here is I think we go pristine sword play to go and get that ready. And I think it's a little bit dangerous if we do completely buy out on that. So we could go bug bite to stack another pristine sword play. We could also just immediately go the bug bite as well, which is a little bit different, but I'm very interested to see where we go from here.
Yeah, I don't necessarily hate that option either. I don't recall. I believe we don't have an asset in our hand here, so...
we have a Dottie.
We have a Dottie in our hand, so that's another copy of Mutant Machine here if we want it. Our opponent completely tapped out here. This Walk the Dog is extra card selection and a pretty cheap attack to pass here. Another 4 diff that we can just roll that puts our opponent pretty close to dead anyways. And we're electing not to build in Dottie here. We're electing to let this bug bite just get blocked using our form draw on final test here.
Well, we do have to play the pristine sword play first, since pristine sword play has the safety text, but Dottie does not, of something that has not been ready before.
I see. Okay, so the sequencing on that matters. Like you said, that's why Matt went farther than we did, because
exactly.
He is sequencing this properly. Very good call here. Playing incredibly well here. Getting that Dottie into play from hand. And let's see. Yeah. Get a little bit of the extra stats on it. Just sending it as is for 9 here, I believe. We're taking 9, going to 6, and now like you were saying, that power token coming into play for sure here. Even though we checked a 3, because our Walk the Dog's on a 4, we can still keep up Pumat. We can still make sure that we put this really fast attack with stun on it to 8 damage, force the jury, and then use the mutant machine. So this is checkmate bar 2 juries, and it doesn't look like Mike has it. Yeah, that's going to be the game.
That's going to be game.
Yeah.
We saw the play and we decided, let's just give our opponent. Let's not make our opponent have to think anymore in this round 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Playing around, possibly checking 3s there, making sure to sequence it so we had checkmate through the only represented potential answer that we'd seen throughout the match. Incredibly well played on Matt's side. Very well played on Mike's side as well. Very good showing from both of these players. And an amazing round 1 to start off our LC.
Honestly, can't think of a better round 1 to have started with.